So today's presentation is going to be all about due diligence. And I promise you, unless you've attended one of my very intense immersive classes on pre-tour due diligence, the things that I'm going to cover today, I promise you that the majority, probably 99.9% of people, do not do what I'm about to show you. And I've been doing this for a long time. I've been flipping houses since 2007, and most people do not do the proper pre-tour due diligence, and they also don't do all the due diligence on the back end on the properties. And if you don't do the proper due diligence going into the deal, you miss out on a bunch of stuff, a lot of rapport building opportunities, but also to get your numbers correct, okay? And really be an expert. The reason why people sell me their property many times is because I'm knowledgeable. I'm knowledgeable about the property. I'm knowledgeable about the code in the area, right? When there's 3 sheds on a property, I'm like, hey, did you guys get permits for these? They're on the property line, right? This is going to come up in the certificate of occupancy inspection. And they go, no, my husband just put them up. We never got a permit. And I'm like, okay, we'll deal with that, right? And when you do things like that, it allows you to take more control over the transaction, okay? But I'm going to show you exactly what I do. It's going to be kind of workshop style as well. And pay attention. I am recording it. So not sure how I'm going to get you the information, but I'm pretty sure we have everybody's email if you registered for this event, and then I'll email it out. I'm recording it on Zoom, and Joey's recording it over here because it is information that you're going to want to probably revisit, when you get a lead. This is when you're going to do what I'm about to teach you now, okay? First, I'm going to teach you pre-tour. What is it called? Pre-tour, like before you tour the property. These are the things that you should do. And then, of course, I'm going to go over very quickly the stuff that I do when I'm under contract, okay? I have a 3-page checklist for this, okay? Are you guys interested in the checklist? Okay, I'll give you the checklist if you stay till the end. I have a QR code at the end. See how that works, folks? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, like I said, do this workshop style because I want to go over this in detail, okay? So it's going to be a little bit different. And by the way, I have all the vendors, that are here today in the document that I'm going to give you. I put it all on a beautiful PDF for you. So all of our vendors are right on here with their phone number, their emails, their information, because you're going to need them for your due diligence, right on here, okay? So that's also going to be in the document. And we start out with doing a Google Street View, okay? This is obviously very simple, but a lot of people miss this. Can you guys see the screen, by the way? Okay, I know it's a little bit tough to see, so let me try to zoom in a little bit. You're going to get this document. Okay? You're going to get this literal document. Okay? And you're also going to get my whole entire PowerPoint presentation. Okay? In the PowerPoint presentation, right here, you see where these 3 images are? You click on that and it'll take you to this document. So in the QR code, you're going to get this PDF, and in the 4th slide, you'll have my entire checklist. And in the checklist, there's links to what I'm talking about, okay? The ones that are, not obvious. Google, I don't need to give you that. So the first thing that you're going to do, I get a property address. I ask them the questions on the phone, collected information, etc. Now I'm going to do Google Street View. That's the first thing that I'm going to do, okay? We want to see if it's on a double yellow line. We want to see if it's close to what? Power lines. We want to see if it's close to commercial property. We want to see basically everything that's going around in the neighborhood. These are external factors that you cannot control that affect the value of the property. Okay, so don't make the mistake of saying, oh, I have a 4-bedroom, 2.5-bath split level home or ranch, and in this area, that house is worth X. Well, just do the street view first, okay? That way you could see if it's close to the train, if there's noise, all that stuff. Then you're also going to search on Google the address of the property. Search to see if the property was mentioned in any news articles. What if it was like, it's stigmatized? Maybe there was a murder there, right? That's something that could affect the value of the property, yes or no? It could, okay? So you just want to know what is going on, okay? Then I'm going to search on MLS. to see if the property is listed. If you don't have access to the MLS, you could search on Zillow and see if it's listed with a real estate agent. Even if I go on Garden State MLS for a property in Union, I'm still going to search for it on Zillow because they might have listed it on Middlesex County, right? MLS. Some agents don't have access to GSMLS, so they just list it on whatever MLS they have access to, and they don't join that MLS, so it still could be listed. I don't want to go to a property, right, that's listed by a realtor without contacting that realtor, okay? So, and I'll let the owner know, like, look, I'm a licensed agent. I'm not going to come to your property without your agent. I see that it's listed. When does it expire, right? We're in direct communication, but I can't really, do that unless I go through your agent. That's how it works, right? I'm going to see if the listings match up for any previous listings, expired listings, withdrawal listings, and I'm going to print it out. Why? Because I want to know if the bedrooms and the baths match up to what it is now, okay, on the property record card. Because it's possible that it's a little bit different, okay? Sometimes people go, yeah, it's a 3-bedroom. And then I look at the listing, and it says it's a 2-bedroom, but there's a bonus room. Septic was designed for a 2. So I'm really not comping it against the 3 unless I upgrade the septic system. Are you guys following? Okay, if we're dealing with houses in like Hunterdon County or Sussex County, you have a lot of that. Okay, so I want to see if things match up, right? The square footage on the property record card, etc. Then the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to search area statistics. Okay, if you are a licensed realtor, you probably know how to do this, right? You go to MLS, right? You're going to have your realtor that does business with you. We have plenty of Signature Realty agents that know how to do this, by the way. If you want to work with one of our agents, you go right here to area statistics and you can search what's going on in that market. Right? Well, I want to know what the average and median sale price for a 4-bedroom goes for in that geographic area. Yes or no? Right? Why? Let me explain to you why. A lot of people they haven't done real estate enough to understand this. There is a maximum dollar per square foot that somebody's willing to pay in a geographic area. Okay? And then there is a minimum that you can get into an area for. Okay? I'll give you an example. Roselle, New Jersey. Okay, if I want to get a house for $400,000 in Roselle, it might be an 800 square foot house. It might be a 1,000 square foot house. Okay, meaning if there's anything under $400,000 in Roselle that's in moving condition, somebody's going to buy it. So if there's a 5,000 square foot house in Roselle, am I going to get the same dollar per square foot that I got on the $400,000 1,000 square foot property? The answer is no. I'm not going to get $400 a square foot times 5,000 square feet. That's $2 million for a 5,000 square foot house. It's diminishing returns as the house gets bigger. Why? Because if I'm going to spend $2 million, I'm not going to live in Roselle. I like you, I love you, Roselle, but sorry. Like, I'm going somewhere else. Are you guys with me? Right? I'm not going to spend $2 million in Roselle. Okay, so somebody might pay $750, meaning there's a max. It doesn't matter if your house is bigger. I had a 13-bedroom, 7.5-bath house in Plainfield, New Jersey. I had it appraised. Appraiser came. He goes, hey, and he gave me all the comps. He's like, hey, the comps are 5 bedrooms and 6 bedrooms and 7 bedrooms. And I'm like, well, what about the other 6 bedrooms that I have? He's like, they don't matter. I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, who needs a 13-bedroom house? Right? There's a max in this area that people are willing to pay for a house. It doesn't matter that you have 6 extra bedrooms. It doesn't matter that you have another 3rd floor that's all finished with new HVAC systems and all these bedrooms. Like, this doesn't add any value to the property at all. Are you guys with me? Okay. So obviously that was, my Airbnb. I made a lot of money and then I sold it for $1.1 million. Great. I did great. And if I tried to sell it normally on the market, I wouldn't even get $900,000 for that house. But because I turned it into Airbnb, I was able to make good money on it. The point is you need to understand your market that you're going to buy a property in. And the only way to really understand that market is 2 ways. One, you track hot sheets every single day. Hot sheets is basically looking at the daily properties that are coming active on the market, that are going pending, that are expiring, and that are selling. That's a daily thing, okay? When I first got started in real estate, that's one of the best things that I did. Okay, I chose my geographic areas that I wanted to do business in, and I tracked everything that was happening in that market. Okay, and I did that through hot sheets. Right here, that little tab on GSMLS, You can have my standard right here, or you can do today's, and every day just go to today's, okay? And you update your timestamp. So that's one. The other thing that I do is absorption report. A lot of people don't understand how this works, but it's very, very important. You guys see the headlines, right? Florida, properties coming on the market, 40% discount. You guys see these? Or am I the only one that sees it? Right? California, all these properties are going down in value. This is in Florida. This is in California. And guess what? In New Jersey, if you're in Trenton or you're in Summit, New Jersey, the market is very different. Okay? The absorption rate is the rate that properties take to absorb all the inventory on the market. Okay, that's the best way I could put it. So if we stop putting houses on the market in this town that I'm going to look at this property in, if we stop putting properties on the market, how long will it take for all the buyers in the market to absorb all the listings? Okay, because there's an average days on market in a geographic location. Let's say it's 30 days, average days on market. And on average, 30 homes sell per month in that area. If there's 30 listings and we put no more listings on the market, that's a 1 month absorption rate, meaning in 30 days, they've been absorbed, right? If 30 days historically, houses are on the market, there's 30 listings, 30 homes per month sell. In 1 month, these listings would be gone. Everybody got it? So is that a buyer's market or seller's market if in 1 month everything's gone? Nice and loud. Seller's market. Okay, now it changes when it's more than 6 months supply. So if the absorption rate is more than 6 months, it's a buyer's market. That means it would take 6 months for buyers to take all the properties off the market that are listed. So in that case, there would have to be 180 active listings, right? 60 times 30, 180. Are you guys with me? So there would have to be all those listings on them. That's a lot. That's a lot of inventory. That means that there's more inventory on the market than there is buyers, okay? There was 12-month absorption rate back in 2010, 2011, 2012. Are you guys with me? Where if you stop putting houses on the market, it would be a year before the inventory was gone. It was a heavy buyer's market, okay? In the area that you're in, from town to town, guys, it ranges big time. And it ranges, believe it or not, by bedroom count. Meaning 4-bedroom absorption rate is different than 3-bedroom absorption rate. That's different than 2-bedroom absorption rate. That's different than 5-bedroom absorption rate. Are you guys with me? Okay, meaning the type of house that you're buying might be more in demand in that area, or it might take longer to sell. Like 2 bedrooms in certain areas just take longer to sell. And in other areas, 2 bedrooms fly because it's a first-time buyer market, right? So just understand that that's what I do. NJR, New Jersey Realtors Municipal Stats. This gives you some stats as well. And then you have info sparks that I like to use. You put in the area right here. This is a newer type of thing that you do, okay? And then you just put in the geographic area right here, add area, and I put, let's say, Clark, New Jersey, okay? And then down here, it's gonna give me new listings. It's gonna give me contract to close. It's gonna give me homes for sale, pending sales, closed sales, average days on market, right? And then it's gonna compare it to the entire MLS of listings, okay? Right here, you see that? And then it's gonna give me Clark Township, right? So I can see in this town, is it more in demand than other towns in New Jersey or less in demand? Okay, is that good, yes or no? Okay, yeah, because when you're flipping properties, you have to be a fortune teller. Think about it, you have to be like, okay, what is this market gonna be like in 4 months from now when I'm done? Right, if you're renovating the house over 3 or 4 months, you have to be like, how is this market trending? Is the absorption rate going up or is the absorption rate going down? Right, if the absorption rate's going down, that's good for me as a flipper. If it's going up, I have to say, okay, yes, houses are selling today for $650 for my type of house that I'm going to look at, but in the future it might be lower because there's more supply and it's trending with more supply. So I'm not going to use that one listing that was on the market for $599 and somebody paid $675 for it because there was a multiple offer situation and they paid 75 grand more for the house. Are you guys with me? This is where a good realtor comes into play, by the way, where they can help you analyze, what this, when are you going to list the property? All right, let's look at the market. Let's see what's going on. And then you could break it down by bedroom here, okay? And if you don't have access to the MLS, you don't have access to some of this information. So I'm looking at all this information to see how the market is trending in this geographic area, okay? So I'm looking at all this stuff. Then I'm going into comparable sales. So once I have the data, okay, it's a 4-bedroom, it's a 2-bath, it's a split level, it's a ranch, whatever it is, I'm going to look at comparables. How am I going to look at comparables if I don't have access to the MLS? Zillow, right? You just go to Zillow. It's very easy if you don't have access to the MLS. You type in the address of the property right here. Let's say it's 1171 Clark. You click back to search here, and it takes you to the map, right in that geographic area, right here. So this just gave me Clark, New Jersey. Then I select here sold, okay? See, I can look for all sold. All the yellow ones are sold. Then I can put bedrooms and baths if I want. So I could say, all right, this is a 3-bedroom, so I want 3 bedrooms or more. I don't really care to compare it to 2 bedrooms. And this one's got 3 baths or more, so I want a minimum of 2. I don't want to compare it to a 3-1 if I have a 3-3. Are you guys with me? 3-2, okay, I'll compare it, and then I'll do my adjustments, my deductions, whatever. I'm going to hit apply. And then I could zoom into the geographic area that property's in, right? Because I want to compare it to properties that are close to this one, right? I don't need all of Clark, New Jersey. I just zoom in, right? And then once I do that, right, I can just target that geographic area, and they all pop up here. Here there's 108 results. If I zoom in, right, look, the results are less. So all I have to do is zoom into the map, and then it gives me the results on the right side. Is this easy, yes? Very, very simple, okay? And I always use Zillow, okay? I have access to the MLS. I use the MLS, but then I also use Zillow. Why? Because if they're not listed on GSMLS, and they're listed on Middlesex County or Hudson County MLS or whatever, it still pops up on Zillow because they syndicated to Zillow. If you only listed a property in Clark, New Jersey and Middlesex County MLS and you sold it, it wouldn't pop up on GSMLS. So I'm missing the comparable. And there's areas like Edison, New Jersey, right? You should put that on GSMLS and Middlesex. But some agents are cheap and they don't want to list it on both because they don't want to pay for the listing or they don't want to do double the work because it's not a click of a button. They have to redo the whole listing. Are you guys with me? Okay, and some MLSs have different listing agreements that they want you to use in certain areas. So they're like, I've never done that before. I don't want to deal with that, or I don't have access to that MLS. I don't want to pay for that. I'm probably not going to do another deal in this area, so I'm not going to do that. Are you guys with me? Should they do that? No, if you're taking a listing in an area and you're going to make $15,000, $20,000, you should subscribe to that damn MLS, right? For a few $100s, right? And then cancel it after if you want. It's a cost of doing business. It's super cheap, right? Compared to, the price that you're selling the house for. Okay, so it totally makes sense to do it. Okay, so far this is very simple stuff. Okay, now this is where it gets a little bit more interesting. And keep in mind, we're doing all this before we go out to the property. Okay, that way I can go to the property early and drive by the comparables. Right? If I have the comparables, I'm like, let me drive by these to see, this one seems a little weird. Why did it sell for $75,000 less than the other one? Let me go there and see. And then I go there and I'm like, oh, okay, there's this commercial property right next door that has trucks, right? Or maybe there's a church down the block. And on Sunday, there's tons of parking and nobody wants to live there because, it affects their parking. Okay, so you start really establishing an idea of what these neighborhoods are like. And guys, look, real estate is very block to block sometimes, yes or no? We could say, yeah, we have this neighborhood, this radius, whatever, but in some areas, there's a flood zone here, and then right here, there's not. Like the flood zone's in this house, but it's not in this house. So why the hell did this house sell for $75,000 less? Because that one's in a flood zone. This one's not, right? And that could be the price differential on a flood zone property, okay? Depending on the flood insurance quote and just, the stigma. People don't want a house, right, in a flood zone. There's going to be less buyer pool for it, right? A smaller buyer pool. You have a smaller buyer pool, you get less money for the house. Okay? I use Remine as well. Anybody ever heard of Remine? Those of you that are agents, you've definitely heard of it, right? So under here, analysis, there's info sparks, there's absorption rate, there's this, there's that, right? There's area statistics, there's CMAs, there's a bunch of stuff that you could do, okay? There's also a website called Remind that you could use to get even more information. It gives you some of the similar data, so you don't need it if you don't want to, but we use it sometimes. The way that you have to do it is by finding a listing, typically. So if I'm using the same example of 1171 Lake, right? You're going to go over here, and Remind is on the left, right? Right here. So you're going to click here, and it's going to take you to a website that you already are subscribed to. It's coming any second. Because you have access to the MLS, you automatically get access to Remind for those of you that are licensed. This is one of the reasons why I'm always like, you should get licensed. If you're going to be an investor, you're going to do marketing, offer people more than one option. I could go to a house and be like, look, I could list it, I could renovate it for you and then list it, or I could buy the house from you. Which one do you want? Right? And it's got a bunch of information here. You know, this is a property that I had purchased, right? And I sold it, right? It's got public record info. It's got some info right here. You can go right to Street View. It's got livable area according to tax record. And then it's got all these things on the right here, which are really nice. School, demographics, etc. Okay? This isn't the only stuff that I use, right, to actually look at some of these things. What I like to do is go down here to see the transaction history in a really easy way. And then primarily I like to use it for this, because the other website that I'm about to show you typically doesn't have the mortgage information. So here, I sold this property. They have an active mortgage that they bought the property from me, and they got a mortgage of $560,800, right, at 7%. It gives me their rate. Right? Is that good to know if I'm going to a lead on what their mortgage is? Yes or no? Yeah, so that's why I use this. Because that piece of information, I never ask the owner unless I think it's a short sell situation where they're underwater. So I want to know what that is. And it's a very easy click of a button, and I can see it. Okay? Okay, so now we're going to do the next part, which on an old listing, or you could just go directly to this website, I click on this, tax data. And this is my favorite website in real estate, this website right here. And I'm going to go through the entire checklist of everything that I do when I'm looking at a property right now, and there's a lot, so you have to just bear with me here. Okay, the first thing that I'm going to do, it might not always have pictures of the property. This one has it because it was a previous listing. But I love this little function right here, the tax map, because it allows me to compare the size of the lot of the subject property that I'm going to compared to the surrounding lots around it. Is that important? Why? Why do I want to know that my lot is the same or bigger than the houses around me? Because if somebody wants to do an addition on this lot, they're probably not going to be able to do it if I have half the size of a lot, meaning that there's a limited use to that property. And I'm going to show you how to go into details on that in a second. Okay, they have the zoning map right here, and then you could pop it open really big right here. Okay, this is a zoning map overlaid on a satellite view. Okay, so this is the zoning map, and this property is in the R150 zone, but it's close to the RA zone. It's just good for me to understand that, because sometimes there's a higher and better use of a property, and if it's closer to another zone, for example, I have a single family that could be converted to a two-family, meaning next door there's a two-family, on the other side there's a two-family, I have a single family. But then I look up the zoning and it says this is for single families, but I'm on the border of a zone that allows two families. So I'm going to just put in a change of use and a change of zoning application. It's a variance, but I have a pretty good shot of getting it if the lot size is conforming and it's close to that zone. I have a higher chance of getting it. Everybody understand? It's good to understand what the zone is, okay? And I'm going to show you in a minute why that's important. You hit escape and it brings you back to this sheet, okay? It gives me the owner's information on the property. Why is that important? Because if I talk to a Mary, right, on the phone. She's like, oh yeah, my name's Mary. I'm like, okay, cool. And then I look up the tax record, and I click on the deed, which you can see book and page right there, and it says Vanessa owns it, right? Maybe she goes by her middle name, Mary. But I'm going to ask her that question. But what if it's Pete and Mary, or Pete and Vanessa, and I'm only meeting Vanessa? I'm going to be like, where's Pete? And she might be like, you know, he passed. You know, or maybe she's going to be like, you know, we broke up. But he's still on the deed, so does he need to sign? Yes, so I need to know that, right? I need to understand the situation of what's going on. What if the deed says estate of, right? Now it's an estate sale, right? Did they go through probate, right? Do they have the green light to sell the property, or am I months away? If I'm months away, I'm not making an offer yet. No way. I'm not going to the house and making an offer. I'm going to the house to build rapport, that's it, and to collect my information, not to make an offer, because they're not ready to accept one. I only make an offer when somebody's ready to accept one. Hey, before I make you an offer, are you guys ready to accept an offer if we meet the terms? No, we're not. We're 4 months away. Great. So let's schedule an appointment 3.5 months from now, right, when we're closer, because I don't know what interest rates are going to be like. I don't know what the market's going to be like, and the comps are going to be totally different in 3 or 4 months. Yes or no? The property could be in a totally different condition in 3 or 4 months. What if they don't turn the heat on and we're going through the winter? And now I come back and it's all moldy, and I made a higher offer and now it's a totally different house. Not interested. I only make an offer on a property unless I know that they're willing to accept and give me an answer. It's either yes or a no. It's okay if it's a no, but I need to know that you're going to make a decision. Sometimes I give them 24 hours or 48 hours. Many times I'll say, who do you need to talk to? Call them, right? I can assist with any questions that they have, right? Because they might have some really good questions, and I'm here now. So you call them in another room, come back, put them on speaker, and then I can answer their questions, right? I did a whole training on this a couple months ago. So I go through that. That's just the beginning, right? Corporate owned, no. If it's absentee, it'll say yes. If it's vacant, this was an owner-occupied property, okay? It gives me some listing history, right, of the property, which is important. If I'm on the MLS, I'm going to look at all the property history. How many times it was listed, how many times it expired, you know, from the current owner. If it's a previous listing, it doesn't matter. But if the current owner that's calling me listed the property 5 times and it expired and they just had all these high prices, I know I'm dealing with somebody that's unrealistic on price. It's good to know that going into a property because I'm not going to waste too much time, okay? And then here, it's going to give me some information about the property if it pulled it from the MLS, which is great. 2-car width driveway, the lot size, etc. Right? And then here is the public records information, which is different. Okay, if you click on here, you get the deed. Okay? This is the assessment value. Here's the, you know, the taxes, $10,308. Okay? All this information is important. If it's exempt, that's important. If it's owned by a nonprofit. If it's a senior, the taxes are lower than what they're going to be when you buy it. Yeah. You're like, oh, wow, I'm getting a house for $7,000 a year in taxes. No, you're not. That's their tax bill, not yours. Okay?
John, what site are you on here?
What site? No, this is stateinfoservice.com. Okay. Yeah. Look right here, stateinfoservice.com. Can you see it?
With my left eye?
Look, stateinfoservice.com. Well, it's recorded, so I'm pointing it out to the Zoom too. Okay, lot square footage, and then zoning. This is really important, guys. Pay attention to this right here. You see how this is linked? This will take you to the zoning information down here, but then there's this little button here that you click on, and it takes you to the code book at ecode360.com. This is where it starts getting more sophisticated, and it's very, very valuable, okay? So if you're a realtor, pay attention. You should be doing this as well. Okay, so this is exactly what you do. You click that code book link. Okay, this is the step-by-step process. You hit download. Okay, PDF. Okay, now you have the zoning information. What zone was I in? R150. Okay, you're going to go to my checklist. Okay, right here. And then you're going to copy the ChatGPT prompt of, can you get me the bulk requirements, okay, for the R150 zone. Always say thank you, because they will take over you. They're going to take over the world, so you got to do it. So a lot of people don't know this. You go to ChatGPT. This is chatgpt.com, okay? You paste in the prompt. I'm going to put in the R150 zone right here and tell me where in the PDF it's located. So it says, can you get me all the bulk requirements for R150 zone and tell me where in this PDF is it located? Thank you. Okay, attach. Okay, downloads. Zoning. That was the zoning. Okay, look, you hit send. You have to put this zone because that's the bulk requirements that you want. Okay, so check this out. ChatGPT will tell me, right? It's listed under this section right here. Okay, good. And then these are the bulk requirements. A lot of you might not even know what that means. Bulk requirements are this, okay? Minimum lot area. This house has 15,000 plus square feet. The minimum lot size to build a home that's conforming in this area is 15,000. So far, am I conforming? Everybody say yes. If you have 15,000 plus and the minimum lot size is 15, are we good? Now, what if I had 14,000 square feet and it was a knockdown? I need starts with a V, variance. Okay, how much does a variance cost? Attorney, land use attorney, typically people testifying on your behalf. You're going to need an engineer, you're going to need an architect, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then you're going to have to go to multiple meetings, and it's going to take you months because you're going to have to get on the zoning meeting, which is done once a month, and they're filled up already for 2 months, so you got to get on the third month. Anybody ever deal with this, by the way? Yeah, I've dealt with it a lot, okay? So it's a pain in the ass. Okay, minimum, by the way, do you guys like this so far? You click zoning, you click download. It gives you the whole zoning from that whole Clark, New Jersey. It gives me everything. And then I just go, I just want you to tell me the R150. That's it, just this one. Because I don't give a shit about the 500 other pages. Okay? And it'll do that. Then I have minimum lot frontage. Okay, so I could have a 15,000 square foot house, but the frontage of my lot is 90. And going back is 170. So I'm more than 15,000, but the minimum lot frontage to have a conforming lot is 100. That's a problem. Are you guys with me? So that's why this is really valuable stuff, because you want to have that, you want to have a lot that is allowed to be used for anything. By the way, how many people do you think actually go and do this? Like, what percentage of people would you think? What percentage of realtors do you think do this for their clients? Minimum lot frontage, 100. Minimum lot frontage of front line for cul-de-sacs. So if it's a cul-de-sac, it's different, right? So that's important. Coverage floor ratio. Maximum lot coverage, you can only cover 15% of the lot. So if I have a 15,000 square foot lot, you do 15,000 times 15%, and that's how much the lot I can cover. You can't use your whole property. Even though, you know, we think we're buying a piece of property that we own, not really. You can only build on 15% of it, right? Maximum lot coverage. Maximum impervious coverage. This means driveways, sheds, anything where water is not going into the ground. Okay, and in some areas, believe it or not, gravel is exempt. In some towns, it is not exempt. So you have to like really understand that specific municipality on the impervious coverage stuff. It's a pain in the ass, okay? Meaning sometimes you could do a driveway with gravel and it's not counted as impervious coverage. If I wanted to max out the square footage because I was in a nice town, I might be able to do something like that. And I'd rather have a gravel or pebble driveway, right? That's still going to look really nice. It's going to cost me money, but it's going to look really nice, but I can get the house that I want. So that's why these things actually matter. It's 35 feet to the house already. You can't go closer to the back without a what? And how long does that take? Right? I've heard people, oh my God, I've heard people go, yeah, you could put a pool here. You have no idea if you can put a pool there. Shut your mouth before you get sued. I'm dead serious. This is not a joke, right? You know, you can't just tell people that they can do stuff if you don't know. You have no idea. You're not an engineer. And if you don't have a survey of the property, how are you going to even calculate this stuff? You can't, right? You need a survey of the property, right? Of everything that's there so you can determine, well, how much of the lot are we covering, right? All this stuff is in there. Okay, anyway, enough with this. You guys know what to do here, yeah? ChatGPT, you download the zoning, you put it in here, etc. Now, just an extra step, because I'm a little obsessed, I will go back to ChatGPT because I specifically asked, tell me where it is. Okay, why? Because I want to copy this. Look, copy, right? I'm going to go back to my download, okay, zoning, and I'm going to hit Command F, and I'm going to paste in where it told me it is. And I want to hit search, because I want to verify that it's the R150 bulk requirements. Are you with me? Okay, because it might have messed up. Okay, this is important. And then I could just go right to it, and then I can organize my PDF by the page, and you know, I'm over here, so I can delete this one, and then only have the R150 and save that. Save it to my Google Drive folder for my due diligence for that specific property. And then of course I'm going to go to ChatGPT, and I'm going to copy and paste all of this right here, and I'm going to put it into a Google Drive link, and I'm going to have all my information there. Boom. Now I can go to the property and I have some more information. Yes or no? And watch this. If they go, oh my God, you could build a bigger house here, or I have a double lot. Well, I'm looking here. You almost have a double lot, right? You have 195 feet. The minimum frontage is 100 foot. So you have 100 here, and then you have 95 here, so you're missing 5. Where's the other 5? Like, where to go? Because this is not conforming. Now I need a variance for 5 damn feet. And historically, can I find public records to see if they've denied other people for 5 feet? Yes or no? Yeah, you can find that out. And you could talk to a land use attorney in that town, right, that is aligned with the administration politically in that town to see if you are going to have a good chance of being able to get that, right? Vanessa, we looked at a property the other day, right, in Madison, New Jersey. It's 5 feet off, right? Now it's a variance. But watch this. You make an offer and you say, it's contingent upon me getting this approved. They go, no, I don't want that. Why not? I did an Oprah request on a property once. Their variance was denied. That's an open public record information. They already went for the variance. They said no to them. Now they're telling people that they can get it, and they already tried, and they were denied. That's why you got to do an Oprah request, which that's on my checklist as well, with exactly what you should ask for, okay? So you're going to go back to this, my favorite website, right, over here. And we're going to go to the top, and we're going to scroll down here. Okay, so here you have the location of the property with the lot and block. This is important for the Oprah request. You have the square footage. Look, here it says lot 15158. It's going to have the lot dimensions, 101 by 150. So far, so good with that? Conforming lot size. That's what I want. I want a conforming lot. Okay? It's worth more. It's more valuable. People can do more things with that. Okay? You can look at all this information. It's got the town website over here. You click on here. The code book ordinance is over here for the town. This will also give you some other information. I always go to I love the municipal websites because some of them are really, really good. Look at this one. You go to Clark, New Jersey. It's got everything. You go to departments. Look, it's got all this. Okay, you go to how do I, right? And it says open public records request form. You click on that, it gives you the PDF, right? You fill out the PDF and you email it to this person right here in Clark, and you're good. You put in your Oprah request. Okay, if you don't know what that is, I'll show you in just a minute. Okay, you're going to look at all this information. The utilities, right? What if it says there's no water? That means it probably has a well. Okay, who's responsible for the well water test in New Jersey? The buyer or the seller? Seller. Okay, and you want to get all the tests done. Okay, I always tell them I'll set it up. I typically call Allstate Well Testing Services, and they get it done for me. There's a process to this. Okay, They have to go 2 days prior and run the water for 45 minutes in the sinks. Okay, 2 days straight. If it's a vacant property, they're going to get stagnant water and the tests are going to come back bad. And then you're probably doing well repairs for no reason. Are you guys with me? Right? So you have to listen to what they say. Just like when Mike from Safeway goes, hey, I'm going to do a lead safe swab on your property, and he preps you and he goes, hey, these are the things that you need to do to prep your property so I don't get there and I start wiping, swabs off the window mantle and it's dusty and all of a sudden there's a chip and you didn't prep. Okay, now you fail and he's going to have to, after you fix it, come back and retest, and that's going to cost you more money. Okay, so you got to listen to everybody that tells you to prep. Just like a home inspector goes, I need the electric on. Yes or no? Right? I can't test, and what are they going to put in the report if the electric's not on? I couldn't test the unit, it's not on. Right? So you got to make sure that the owners understand this stuff. Okay, this is going to be helpful. Right? If they go, hey, there's nothing on, right? At least you know who the utility companies are, and you say, well, do you mind if I assist you in putting stuff on? Right? To do the inspection. A lot of investors won't do that. Okay, nearby properties and the dollar per square foot that they sold for. It's somewhat valuable. Right over here, property record data. Love this. It tells me how many fixtures are in the baths. There's 3 fixture baths, 3 of them. Great. There's an attached garage that's 231 square feet. That's good to know. They have 2 sheds on here. There was 3. Okay. It tells me how big they are. It tells me how big the deck is. It tells me how big the patio is. And then this, one of my favorite things, flood. Right? It tells me if the property is in a flood zone or not. This one's not. Look, this is the flood. This is the property. But if I buy this property over here, it's in a flood zone. I need flood insurance. And if that property sold for $650 and it's bigger than this house, it doesn't mean that my house is going to sell for $650. My house could sell for $700 because it's not in a flood zone. Even though it's smaller, it's not in a flood zone. Okay? Zone X. Okay? Area of minimal flood hazard. Okay? Then I'm going to click on this tab. Look, this is really important. DEP wetlands. Okay? If I'm by wetlands, okay, this purple stuff right over here, if I'm on this property, you have to get a letter of interpretation from the DEP in order to do anything on your property. Okay? If your property has wetlands or is close to it. Typically it's 50, 100, or 150 foot buffer from where the wetland ends. So you need to get what's called a wetlands delineation survey done. Okay? And then you have to send it to the DEP, and they will tell you if that is a habitat for Indiana bats, for example. Okay? Are you guys with me? Okay, sometimes you might come across a lot, and that you're like, oh my God, this lot's so cheap, this is amazing, this is good. And then you look at this, and you're like, yeah, it's full of wetlands. You can't do anything. You can't build at all. It's full of wetlands. There's nothing you could do. Are you guys with me? The only thing you could do is go to a wetlands bank, which there's 2 in all of New Jersey, and you can purchase 1 acre from them at a time or less for $700,000 an acre. And I can pay him $700,000, and he allots 1 acre of his wetlands, and then I can build on my 1 acre of wetlands because I have a wetlands bank credit for 1 acre over here. How many of you did not know that? Nobody does, right? Very few people do. Okay? I make all this stuff up. It's not real. It sounds good, right? No, but it's real. And if anybody needs that person, I have his number. His name is Carmine. He's got 1 of 2 wetlands credits. He's had it for 35 years, and that's how he's made his money. He bought it at an auction many, many, many years ago, and he's made tens of millions of dollars by selling wetlands credits to developers and builders that need the wetlands credit so they could build on their wetlands. And this is how you turn shit deals into deals, especially in good geographic areas where you need the wetlands credits to be able to build on prime real estate that otherwise you would not be able to do if you didn't know about getting a wetlands credit. Freshwater wetlands, you would see that. This is nice, contaminated sites. Look, these are the ones that are contaminated, and if you zoom out, I just want to show you where some of them are on this map. It might take a little bit to load, but they come up with like red little dots, and sometimes there's something close. I don't know why, maybe Clark doesn't have it, but It's not coming up right now, but they come up in red little dots, and you can see if there's contaminated properties. Typically, they're gas stations or commercial properties or even residential properties that have an active leak. Tidelands, pinelands, highlands. These are all things that are going to limit you from being able to build, do additions, and use the property, so it's important to understand what they are. Okay, you can look into each one of them, as necessary. Okay, over here, you have some comparables under here if you want. You have schools, which I use a different website than this. I don't like this website because it doesn't give me the rankings of the schools. I'll share with you the website that I use. You have transit scores, nearby properties, and then I like to use this municipal data because over here on the right, it's got OPA request form and some other important documents that they pull from the website. This is typically to see when the last tax assessment was. As you can see, right? This is the tax rate, and then the tax rate went down when it got reassessed. They probably changed everybody's assessment value. Their goal is 100% of value, so their tax rate goes down. Tax map. This is, it's valuable, but it's not really that relevant unless you zoom in into the area. This is one of my favorite things on this website. You can download this and throw it into your Google Drive folder for it. It tells me the square footage of each area of the house, okay? And it gives me a layout of what the tax assessor has on record. Okay, so let's say I'm at a house and it's not a perfect rectangle. This is a garage, right? This is the rest of the house, right? This is this back little area, and you go down to the basement from there. What if there was this big area right here? And it was an addition. Like literally, I go to the house and I print this out for my appointment to go there, and then I see there's a whole nother part that the tax assessor doesn't have on file. What does that mean? That they did an addition without pulling permits. Is that important for me to know? What if it's in violation of the setback? What if the CO inspector comes and he goes, what's this? I don't have this on file. I'm looking at my property card. I don't have this. You need to pull permits for all this. It's not your problem. It's the seller's problem. Okay? And that's very important, guys. I'll give you another example. Very practical. Cranford, New Jersey. You can't sell a single family house in Cranford without a garage. So if I'm at a house and there's a garage on the property card, but there's no garage at the house, which actually happened to me. It was on Johnson Ave in Cranford, okay? There was no garage there. There was a foundation for a garage, but there was no garage. So I talked to the seller, and I didn't have it in my budget to put the garage there, when I was thinking about making my offer. Are you guys with me? Yeah. So now I have to put in a garage.
You did that on 24-hour flip.
We did put a garage in on 24-hour flip, absolutely. In 24 hours. What? Okay, so on here, it's really valuable to take it to your appointment and see what's listed. Plus, you don't always want to be measuring everything, right? You want to do a little bit of measuring, but if I have a lot of the measurements, right? Look, 1440 square foot of the basement, 1267 is finished. Is that great? Yeah. What if it says 0 finished and the whole thing's finished? Huh? Not permitted. Right? So now what do I have to do? It's possible that the CO inspector goes, I need plans, I need plumbing, I need framing, I need electrical, right? That is a problem that this homeowner has. And guys, believe it or not, this happens a lot. People do construction without permits in their home. Yes or no? Right? They finish a whole entire basement because nobody sees them. So then they finish the whole basement, and then they're like, I need to sell this property, but I finished the basement without permits. How many of you come across this before? Realtors call me all the time. They're like, what do I do? I'm like, nothing until the CO inspector comes, right? You're not going to go and tell them, right? And be like, hey, I did it 15 years ago. They're going to be like, all right, we'll put in all the permits, right? If they come and they go, hey, what's going on over here? What are they going to say? They're going to be like, I don't know. My husband finished it. Right? They're like, where's your husband? He's dead. I don't know. He's gone. Right? And they're like, all right, well, let's, we got to figure this out. Yes or no? But now here's the thing. Are they going to list the house on the market normally, or do they want to sell to me and let me handle it? They want me to do it. They want me to call my architect. They want me to call my plumber that's going to review all the stuff that they did, update it to code. You look behind, right? The framing has no insulation, of course, right? So it wasn't done right, so now we got to put insulation there. You know the whole deal. But this is a problem now that they have, right? That I'm going in knowing. Why? Because here's why this is important, guys. It's very valuable. Because if I go there and I'm like, look, I'm going to make you two offers. One, if the basement situation is good, this is the number. If the basement situation is not good, meaning they're going to make me pull permits and do all this stuff, that's a whole nother price. Are you guys with me? A lot of people, they don't do that. They make an offer, then something comes up, and then the deal dies. Right? And they're not even thinking about getting ahead of it. Okay? Like I had a situation in one property, they changed the garage into a living room and left the garage door outside. So if you open the garage, in literally a foot, there's sheetrock. And they finished, and I was like, come on. You left the garage door, you didn't even change that? They're like, no, because then the town would know. I'm like, but now you want to sell the property. Are you guys with me? So what did I do? I put the garage back. I made the garage go back like that, 24 hours, right? And now I have a garage, right? And now the inspector comes, and he's like, oh, there's a garage, right? Yeah, there's a garage there. It was there, right? But she needs a regular buyer. Are they going to do that? No, they're not going to do that, okay? That's why we get deals sometimes, okay? All right, let's go back to my favorite website, tax data. Okay, so we go down, check it out. So far, so good, guys? Are you getting value out of this? Okay, so your past flood zones. Sometimes they have construction permits on here. You guys see this? Right? The alteration, that's good. Sometimes you need to do open request for that. That's fine, right? So you have the property record card and then this. I like this and I take it with me and I print it because a lot of times they don't even know their assessed value of their property. And here it'll tell you if they're exempt. Here it'll tell you if it's, a senior, things like that. It's important, okay? They might not have this because you all get it in the mail, don't you? What do you do with it? Yeah, most people throw it away, okay? And then you have the deed image, right? This was me selling it to them, but obviously when I was looking at this property, I could see actually who owns the property, okay? So this is a really, really valuable website that I go through for all this information, and I really prep hard because I only have how many shots? I have one shot, right? So if I can get all this information, I could see look, the last thing you want to do, in 5 minutes you could do this, right? You could pop on this website, see if it's in a flood zone, see if it's got wetlands. You could know all this stuff before you even get to the house. Imagine getting to the house, doing everything, doing an analysis, you're making an offer, and then later, after you've bothered all your attorneys and all these people, then you're like, oh shit, this house has wetlands. Now, you couldn't have checked before, right? This is so easy, right? Most people don't even check it. In fact, how many of you checked it when you bought your primary? Be honest, right? Is this useful for you to buy a house, yes or no? Yeah, and all realtors that have access to the MLS have access to this, right? Because they give it to us with the MLS. It's so cheap. It's like a couple $100 a year to have access to the MLS, and they give us all this stuff, okay? I like to check nearby property lot sizes, compare it to my subject property, see if they're bigger, smaller. Municipality data, the code book, verify the zoning, the utilities information I went through. I'm just making sure I went through everything. Bulk requirements, by the way, I have the ChatGPT prompt, okay, in here. This is the most common bulk requirements that you're looking for. Okay, this is what we want. Okay, we want to know about this. Then I go to sex offender search. Okay, I'm gonna Google sex offender search NJ, and I'm going to see why. Because let's say I'm going to a property and that property has a registered sex offender and it was a violent crime. Should I want to know that going in? Yeah, if I buy that property, the neighbors are going to be very happy. Yes or no? Right, because they don't know the neighbor, whatever. Maybe he's harmless, maybe he's not. Okay, so this is important, especially if you're going to somebody's house and they're like, let's go see the basement, right? Like, you have to, you're going into somebody's property, and a lot of times you're going by yourself. You don't know what's going to happen, right? Let's say you're buying a house and there's one a mile away. Is that a problem? I mean, it's 16 blocks. That's 16 blocks away. Is it a big problem for you? No, but what if you're on a cul-de-sac and they're on it too? Is that a problem for families? Maybe. Yeah, so guys, look, all I'm looking for, external factor that I can't control. I can't control that this person lives there and that they have this history. I can't control. But I have the public record information. I'm entitled to know. Buyers are entitled to know. It's something that I need to consider. It's up to you. Are you guys with me? Okay? If it's going to be a problem for me, it could be an issue. I did one on a Roselle property. There was 8 surrounding the property. Right? Like, I don't know what they were all doing there. It's like they all hung out together. I don't know if there was a building owner that's like, hey, this is who we want. Like, you're welcome here. I'm one, you're one, we're good. Right? I don't know, right? But that was their niche. I don't know. Check if the town has specific conditions for property sales. Okay, what do I mean by that? Going into a town, some of them require a certificate of occupancy, some of them don't. Some of them require a fire certificate. Some of them require a septic inspection before they give you a CO if the house has a septic, like in Mendham, right? Some of them will say, we're not giving you the CO without the well water test because we want to know that the well is drinkable. The well water is drinkable. Are you guys with me? Right, so every town's different, so you need to find out what the home sale requirements are. Why? Because, and this is all pre-tour. I haven't even gone to the property yet. Because I want to step in there knowing what I'm going to deal with. Is the CO inspector going to be here or not? Right? Do I need to inspect the septic or not? Do I need to inspect the well or not? Okay, do I need to get the well water test before applying for the CO or not? Right? All these things are, like in Linden, New Jersey, guys, if you're buying a 3-family or up, they require the state registration certificate, and it can't be expired. They will not give you a CO in Linden, New Jersey, in a 3-family or up house if you don't have the state registration. You would never know that unless you did the research and due diligence or already bought a 3-family house in that area. And that's going to hold you up a lot. The state takes forever to do those state inspections. Right? Anybody ever do the state inspections? How long do they take, Sam? They're backed up years? Because of COVID. Yeah, they didn't do anything during COVID, right? Oprah request. Use your Oprah template, right? Those of you that are my students, you have the Oprah template. I put some stuff here. For those of you that are not my students, this is what I asked for. But everything's going to be different depending on the property. If there's septic, if there's a well, you're going to add things to it. Okay, and Oprah is an Open Public Records Act. Anything that's public information, I'm allowed to legally get access to it. I'm going to put the address on top with the lot and block number into my Oprah form that I showed you before. That was on the website, and I'm going to email it to them requesting for open and closed permits. Why closed? Because if they closed a permit for a roof 10 years ago, I know that there's a roof from 10 years ago. And it gives me the description. Are you guys with me? Okay? That's good information. Because if I ask the owner, like, how old's your roof? And they're like, I don't know. I go, I do. 1998. They're like, how the hell do you know that? I go, look. Right? And they're like, damn. Like, you know more about my house than I do. I go, yeah, including the value. Some people follow my jokes, some people don't. Look up active, under contract, comparable listings, drive by them. Okay, schools, I use niche.com. Okay, that's right here. I like it because it gives me private schools, it gives me school rankings for the public schools, and I want to know the private schools in the geographic area. Okay, because when I go to resell that property, I want to know how it works. If I'm doing a lot of business in an area, and a lot of people that buy in that area send their kids to this private school, I want to know what the waiting list and admissions process looks like. So then when somebody asks me about it, I'm going to be like, yeah, there's a little bit of a wait list. My kid's in that school, or I know somebody that has a kid in that school and you need a referral. So I could hook you up if you buy the house for $50,000 more, right? Donation. Transportation, understanding how far major airports are. Buses, trains. Of course, you don't know the geographic area all the time when you get a lead. Maybe somebody passed along your postcard or they saw your ad on Facebook or whatever type of marketing you're doing. You don't always know the area. I just bought a property in Sussex County, never even been there before in Sandyston. I bought a lake house, right? I already sold it and I did a bunch of research on that area. I never knew that area. I'll probably never go back. right? But I did a bunch of due diligence and research in this geographic area. I didn't know anything. I didn't know how far it was. I didn't know what the closest transportation was. I don't know anything, okay? But in certain towns, that's really important. They're moving to that town because they want to live in the suburbs, but they want a train that they can use. So you need to find out, is it residents or residents and non-residents that can use that train and that can park in that train station? Because a lot of times in certain towns, they'll be like, yeah, we allow non-residents to get a parking permit. In some towns, they go, you have to be a resident in this town. So if I'm in Chatham Township, I cannot use Chatham Borough. I can't get a parking permit for Chatham Borough. It's borough and township. They hate each other. I don't know what the deal is, right? It's like they're fighting. So they do not. So you have to now go to another train station that allows non-residents, because you're not a resident of Madison, New Jersey. So they have to allow, you have to find a train, and you have to know that if you're selling a house in Chatham Township, right? Because if somebody's looking at your house and like, yeah, I'm traveling to New York City, how does this work? Blah, blah, blah. This is going to be my daily commute. You want to know if you drive there, if you take the bus, if you take the train, and to park your car, how this works, and if there's a shuttle. Are you guys with me? Should we know this? Yeah, this is having a what? Pulse on your market, okay? I know you might be like, John, this is a lot. Like you just got a lead and now you're doing all this. Yes, you're going to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars. So yes, you're going to spend a little bit of time doing the due diligence and research, okay? Because you cannot compare it to another house that this is in walking distance to the train, that they don't need the parking permit and be on the 2-year wait list. So I can't comp my house that's not in walking distance to the train because this person's going to have to drive there. That's why that damn house sold for so much money and I couldn't figure it out. It's because they're in walking distance to the train and there's a 2-year freaking waiting list. But that house, you don't need to be on the waiting list because you can park in your driveway and you could walk to the train. But a few blocks more, it's not walking distance anymore, especially in the winter because New Jersey sucks, right? Are you guys with me? Okay. Okay, so that's before you go out to the property. Okay, is it going to take you a little bit of time to do this? Yes? Do you think most people are going to do this? No, especially your competition. They're not going to do it. Right? So now when you go very, very prepared, what is the number one thing that homeowner is concerned about? Your credibility. Like, are you real? And if they've interviewed a realtor and that realtor didn't even know half the shit that you bring and half the stuff that you know about that house and the code and this and that, they're going to be like, wow, this person really knows what they're doing. And you only have to do it once in a town, a lot of this stuff, because you already know it. You already have a lot of the documents. Yes or no? Right? I save all my Oprah requests for every town. Right? That way I don't have to find them every time. Right? I save the information on the zoning. Obviously, I'm going to check if it's updated or not, etc. Okay, on here you can click on this list, right? It'll take you to all of our vendors and their phone numbers and emails. Okay, now I'm done. I got the offer accepted because I did my numbers, my analysis. That's not what this event is about, not what this training is about. This is about due diligence. But now I'm under contract. I have to order title, yes or no? So I'm going to call Jackie up and be like, hey, let's get title on this property. That's part of your due diligence. Okay, those of you that are investors that are doing sheriff sales, is this important? I can't hear you. Yes, a lot of people don't even get title insurance when they buy an auction property. Because they're like, oh, I'm getting a sheriff sale deed. Yeah, okay, so what? Right? You need to have title insurance because there's other stuff that could potentially be on title that you're still responsible for. Right? And we want to know what those are. That could be a big, big problem. Okay? And yes, there's an expense. You're doing searches. But if you have a relationship with somebody, they're going to get shit done quick. And they're going to show you and teach you little things. Like, for example, you can get a wetlands addition to your search. Right? And then they'll give you all the information that they have on the wetlands of that property. If there's wetlands that's close, you want to get that included in your title. They don't all just include it. You have to ask for it. Okay? And if a property is in a flood, I put a website for you on here called yupinsurance.com. And you can get a flood quote in 5 minutes, and it's the the cheapest flood insurance I've seen. Because I think flood insurance is a scam. That's my opinion. Yupinsurance.com. Okay, it's on here, okay? Okay, order your title searches, all that stuff. Make sure you talk to the title rep. Don't just be like, hey, have the attorney order title. This state okay? In this state, you're allowed to choose your title company. And you're not going to pay more for title if you use this title company or that title company. It's regulated fees. So use the title company that is going to be the best and that is really big and they have money behind them because they're an insurance company. So if something were to happen, you're screwed. If they're actually not a good insurance company and they're not big enough and they don't have the capital to support it. Does this make sense? Right? That's why we use big title companies like RealSafe, right? That are huge and they're in tons of states and they have a lot of capital behind them, okay? And they're very professional and they get stuff done and they have that personal service even though they're very, very big. Okay, next, what are we going to do? We're going to get a home inspection, okay? Safeway includes the termite in their home inspection, okay? It's part of their home inspection package. Then they have other packages that you can add on to. You could add radon, right? You could do sewer scope, right? That could be a big price tag, yes or no? Yeah. Sewer line scope, a lot of people don't do it. Highly recommend that you do it, especially on old houses. Guys, we're in an old part of the country, right? This is not, Arizona. Okay, you got to get your sewer line inspections done. Septic inspection if the house has septic. Well inspection. Inspect the well, not just get the well water. The well water the sellers are responsible for. Okay? By the way, if you're buying an auction property, the Bank of America is not doing a well water test. You're buying it. They're not the owners. They're foreclosing. You have to understand what's happening. There's an owner that hasn't paid their mortgage. The bank is enforcing their legal action to get this property back. And before they allow that to happen, there's an auction, which gives you the opportunity to buy the house. So the bank never owned it. So they don't have to get it. And the previous owner that's getting foreclosed on that hasn't made their payments is never going to do that for you. So now you're taking additional risk. Are you guys with me? Right? It's like the one exemption. Right? And that's what I always tell people when I'm buying a property from somebody. That's the excuse that I always use if they go, oh, well, they need to do all this stuff, right? And I go, okay, so when somebody forecloses, do you do all that stuff? Do you do a CO for every sheriff's sale property? No. Why not? Well, nobody applied for it. I go, okay, so sales happen without a CO, yes? And then what happens after? The owner that buys it is fixing the property. That's what I'm going to do. They have no money. They're not going to do all this shit. They're not going to fix the railing. They're not going to fix the mold in the basement. That's why I'm buying it. I'm buying the property. I'm going to give you a letter. It's going to be notarized. And I'm going to say within 90 days, I'm going to fix X, Y, Z. And then this house is going to be compliant. And before anybody lives in it, you're going to be able to come in and inspect it and do a certificate of occupancy inspection. Are you guys with me? And they can't argue with me when you use that debate. Why? Because they're like, oh, well, the foreclosure, that's just how it works. Yeah, and this is the same thing. Right? This is the same thing. There's no money there. Nobody's going to do this work ahead of time. Okay? They need to get out. It's unsafe. Here's an attorney. Here's a letter from an attorney. Well inspection, well water, typically responsibility of seller. Tank sweep, right? A lot of houses have underground storage tanks, old septic tanks, oil tanks, all sorts of stuff. Okay? In all my clauses in my contracts I put, if we find an oil tank, I'll be responsible for removing it, but you're responsible for the remediation. I'll pay for it. We'll lower the purchase price by the amount of the remediation cost. That way they cannot kill the deal on me, and they have to allow me to remediate it. Okay, you have to ensure that you did title and that there's enough equity in the case that that happens. Because if I'm buying a house for $300 and they owe $295 on it, that clause doesn't matter because they don't have the money to do it. Are you guys with me? Okay, so all those things are valuable, and this is why you have to do these things. Okay? Lead inspection on certain properties, you can talk to Mike. He'll tell you which ones are required before you rent them out, and things like that. Okay? Then you have some specialist stuff. Chimney inspections, right? Chimneys can be expensive. Pool inspection, HVAC technician. Home inspectors are not HVAC people. Okay, so if I have a problem with the HVAC, what are they going to put on the home inspection? I recommend that you get this serviced by a licensed HVAC technician. And most people don't do it, right? They don't actually go the extra step and then get an HVAC guy over there and say, hey, can you assess what the problem is on this property and then give me a price so then I can go and negotiate a credit on the sale of this property because I need to know what the damage is, right? That's the process. You get a home inspection, they give you numbers, they go this, 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 you bring in the specialist, you get prices, you ask for a credit, right? Not for repairs because they're always going to go with the cheapest, because they're dumping the property on you, right? So they're going to just patch it up as much as they can. So you get a credit, okay? And you give them all the inspection reports, because if they don't sell to me and agree to my credit, they have to now disclose it on the mandatory seller's disclosure document in New Jersey. So now you have all the information, so you have to disclose it. So you're not in a good situation. Roof, right? A lot of roofs have problems. You don't know if it's tear off, etc., right? Sometimes, especially flat roofs, you got to get them inspected. Okay, make sure that the inspector is fair, the roof guy, because sometimes they go there, they rip holes in a roof, and then they don't patch it up. That's not fair, right, to the owner. They have to put it back. They need to seal it if they want to know how many layers are on the flat roof, etc. Okay, make sure you do things right. Structural engineer, in the case of massive termite damage or cracks in the walls, etc., you call a structural engineer to make an assessment. Why? Because you can't call a framer or a contractor to fix it without knowing what they have to put to fix it. The engineer is going to be doing all the calculations on what has to be done to solve for the problem. And they're going to have specifications. This is how big the beam is. This is the type of beam. Blah, blah, blah. Everybody got it? Okay, so that's why you have structural engineer. An architect, right? Sometimes you are going to do an addition, you're going to do this, you're going to do that, you're going to have that. A planner, right? Planners oftentimes can do what's called a feasibility study on a property and help you determine what is the highest and best use of the property. Costs you about $2,000. Best $2,000 you'll ever pay. Not necessarily for a single family, but if you are doing a subdivision, if you are doing, an apartment building, you're going to be building something, very important to get a planner, okay? They'll give you an idea of, they're going to study the master plan in that geographic area, and they're going to tell you if, according to the master plan, this is what they believe the town will like in this area according to their master plan, because they go by their master plan, okay? And every 10 or 15 years or whatever, depending on the town, they redo their master plan, they hire a consultant, they get, comments from the general, residents, and then they come up with their master plan. So things change over time. Zoning changes, impervious coverage changes. These things change as they change that, okay? Electrician and plumber, okay? We're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars. Many times you're not using your money, you're using other people's money, whether it's a private money lender, maybe it's a friend, a family member, or you're, working with these guys. Look, I've worked with everybody here. I promise you, every time I've gotten a loan from them, they don't ask me for all this shit. They don't. They're underwriting the deal, they're asking for stuff, but they're not asking me for all this. Are you guys with me? This is on you. This is on you to do a good job prepping for your appointment and knowing you're not going to buy a lemon property. Okay? That's what this is for. Okay? You guys stayed till the end. Do you guys want the doc? Yeah, you're like, I'm waiting, John, I'm waiting. This is all I'm here for. I don't even care what you say. Okay, and I put it all in a PowerPoint as well. I'm not going to go through it because it's the same stuff, but it's in a nice PowerPoint. There it is. Scan it, make sure you get it. If for some reason you can't scan it, come up to me at the end and I'll give you a link that I've put together that will also take you to the same place. When you scan it, click on the Google Drive link that pops up on your phone. So scan it, click on the link. It should be make a copy, click make a copy. If you don't have a Google Drive link, well, if you don't have Google, that's going to be kind of a problem. Okay, mine pops up pretty simply, depending on probably the phone that you have or whatever. And by the way, guys, again, when you get this, I just scanned it. This is it. You click on the fourth slide with the documents. Look, with the documents, click on that. If you click on it, it'll take you to the checklist. So you'll have the whole entire checklist there. Okay, the link, if you want it, for those of you that it didn't work, it's bit.ly, bit.ly, period, ly/NJRESN 2025. Write it down if you need it, bit.ly/NJRESN 2025. If you guys want to learn for 2 days about stuff like this throughout the whole process, that's what the 2-day training is for. It's $47 and it's right on this link. You can scan this and sign up for that. Very inexpensive, and it's going to be a lot of knowledge. We started at 8:05, it's 9:20. This was basically an hour and 15 minutes of going through pre-tour due diligence, right? If you want 16 hours of how I run my business and what I do, that's what this is for. Okay, good stuff, guys? Okay, thank you very much. And I hope to see you at the next Shark Tank event. Thank you.